Welcome back to 15 Minutes of Finance. My name is Brandon West. I'm a CPA, and I'm going to help you keep more of your money. I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty fired up today. This is the motto of our company. I believe this is somewhere on our website. Nobody cares more about your money than you. Let us earn the right to be second. Okay, that's something we say in our company. So we're gonna care about your finances, not more than you, but more than anybody else. Like, let us be the second, most important people when it comes to your money. I don't know if I even feel that way anymore. I kind of feel like we care the most about people's money. I'm a little frustrated with not only the state of the industry, but the things that I see in the online content surrounding financial management. I think it's become completely unacceptable, the proliferation of bad financial knowledge and the ease at which individuals claim to be an expert on financial knowledge. And there are certain terms that they can't use, but largely people can kind of call themselves whatever they want. All right. I could call myself a financial advisor with no financial experience. That term is not regulated. And so the amount of people peddling bad financial knowledge, and really from a consumer standpoint, the level to which people are so okay with mediocrity when it comes to managing the money that they spent their entire lifetime earning. I don't get it. I'll be completely honest with you. So let's talk about what's spurring this on and why I'm so fired up today. So one thing that we like to do at our firm is constantly find ways to add more value to clients. So it's the reason that James and I partnered together. Look, you manage money. I'm a CPA. Why don't we just partner and put everything under one roof? So someone doesn't have to hire Brandon West to do taxes and James Walters to manage their money. They just work with, it was 77 Financial Group, which is still the legal name of our company. Here locally in our area, it's West and Walters Tax and Wealth Management. That's kind of the brand we operate under. So, but we started James had already started, but I came on board 77 Financial Group with the mission of let's do everything we can for clients. And so part of that is recognizing even the things that aren't super glamorous or aren't super, fun to do, aren't really our niche, are needed by some clients. So we constantly work on adding value. So one thing that I'm doing is I'm working on getting my insurance license in California. That way, if I talk to a client who's a small business owner, who's the sole breadwinner and has a wife and 2 kids, say, hey, look, you really should probably have a term insurance policy. Let me help you pick out a cheap one that's affordable for you. Okay. Rather than having to, send them off somewhere else for someone to hopefully take good care of them, but we're not sure. If you want something done well, you got to do it yourself. So that's kind of our philosophy. Let's do everything in-house. Let's make sure we have policies and relationships that are the best for clients and do as much as possible. Okay. So I'm a CPA. It's one of the hardest designations you can get in terms of the testing process. I'm also a Series 65 registered financial advisor. That's something I added in the last year so that I could actually represent our company in meetings with clients and say, here's what we do on the financial management side. Let's say you want to set up a solo 401k plan with your business. Here's how we would manage it. Let me ask you some questions and, we can help grow this money for you. So I can actually represent our company when it comes to financial management. I'm not just an accountant anymore. So now I'm working on my insurance license. Okay. And we've had episodes in the past where we've talked about insurance agents, people with their insurance license they're not financial planners. They're not financial advisors. They're not authorized to explain to you why you should choose ETF B over mutual fund C, right? They don't have that experience, that ability. Okay. They can't sell you financial products. So all they can do is sell products from an insurance company, or they might be an independent person who has a marketplace of products they can shop for. But all they're doing is selling you products. They can't manage you money. And we've talked in the past about how I got completely screwed over by an insurance person packaging a horrible product as, a financial wealth vehicle that did not pan out well and basically stole my money. So now I'm actually getting my insurance license and the rage is renewed. guys. The rage is at an all-time high because, oh, it is so easy. It is so easy. It's so easy. If you knew, I would challenge anybody to go and get an insurance license. Go do it. You could probably do it in 2 weeks. And then you'll see how ridiculous it is that some 25-year-old with an insurance license is trying to convince you in retirement after you've worked your whole life to buy a whole life policy or buy an annuity with $500,000 of your investments. That's an insane proposal. I don't know how they sleep at night, guys. I really don't. I'm a CPA. I have almost a decade of experience in accounting. I'm a registered advisor here in our firm. I'm also working on the accelerated path towards the CFP. So theoretically, by the end of the year, I'll also have my CFP designation. We'll see. I'm currently working on it. So then I'll be able to kind of compare all the different designations that you might work with and really give an insider's perspective of what does it actually mean for someone to get that designation? How hard actually was it? And what was the process? But man, the insurance one is so easy that if you are being sold an annuity or a whole life policy as a good investment vehicle, I'm not saying it isn't for your situation. I can't say that to you as the listener without understanding your situation, your goals, your risk tolerance. There are people who do not want even a modicum of risk. Maybe they're anti-government and they don't want treasuries and they know they're not going to get more than 4%, 3%, whatever on their money, but they don't want it to be at risk at all, and they're okay with very small returns. Sure, maybe there's someone out there that a annuity product works well for, but you have to understand that if you're meeting with somebody with your investments that is selling you this, they don't have a comprehensive range of options for you. Okay, it'd be like asking someone who I got to be honest, guys. I literally recorded a 2-minute segment and I had to delete it and just come back to the spot in the audio. It was the dumbest analogy. I stopped recording and I was like, that made so little sense. I have to just have a different answer and analogy to this question. So I don't have a good analogy. It made absolutely no sense. It's probably the worst thing I've ever recorded. I was like, I can't put this out there. It's like talking to, a nail company of how should you put a roof on. Maybe a brad nail is better. Maybe there's screws are a better system. Maybe glue is a better system for, the rain panels that you have to attach to the top of your roof. I think they usually use some sort of like tar or something like that. But if you ask a nail company, they're going to tell you, oh, you should nail it. When you talk to an insurance agent, what should I do with my money? The only answer they can give you is buy insurance. So what do you think they're going to tell you to do? Buy insurance. They are not a professional in the field as a whole that can decide from a range of options for you what is optimal. They're a product salesman with a list of products they're authorized to sell to you. So, client profile of the week. All right. I worked with clients this year on the tax side that had an inheritance. Okay. And I had to input, I believe it was 9 different insurance payouts. They're all 1099-Rs from various insurance companies. The amount of unique annuities, whole life. Now, this is someone who had been burned in the past, said, I don't trust the market anymore, and then wanted exclusively no-risk products. And what happened was, I'm sure, they talked to an insurance person, about what they should do about that. The insurance person is not going to talk to them about a balanced portfolio and ask them detailed questions of the level of risk they're willing to tolerate. They're not going to shop with them the various interest rates on high yield savings accounts. They're not going to explain to them the interest on 6-month versus 3-month versus 1 year versus 5-year treasuries to earn completely risk-free interest. They're insurance salesmen. So their answer is going to be, here's the insurance product that minimizes your risk. And almost never overall is that the absolute optimal path, because part of your money is paying for giant commissions. That alone should tell you your money isn't being optimized, because if 60% of the first year's premium can go to your agent's commission, well, only 40% of your money could even be doing something for that to break even for the company selling you the product. So the math never adds up for insurance making sense for you, the investor. Okay. And in general, this sentiment that you have to buy insurance because you were burned by the market. The market is not a person, guys. The market is not a person that can betray you. All right. It's not like James does this horrible thing and screws me over in our business partnership. And I'm like, oh, I don't trust businesses anymore. That doesn't make sense. The starting an LLC, that's a document with the state. The market is the collection of every publicly traded company in the entire United States. It's not out to get you, and within certain time ranges, it's predictable. It goes up and it goes down. It's not going to betray you. You selling at the bottom doesn't mean the market's broken. It means you made a bad investment decision, and that shows you that you should either trust a professional in the future or you need to do some research to make better investment decisions. But it doesn't give you analysis that the market is broken. You just made a bad financial decision, and lots of people do. But that doesn't mean that I can't trust the market. No, I'm not going to put my money in the market again. What you're saying is there's not a single company in the United States that's worth investing into. If that was true, we wouldn't be the country we are today. So clearly that can't be true. The market's not out to get you. The market's not broken. You just made a bad financial decision, and that's one of the reasons we encourage people to work with an investor, is because an advisor on their investments, an actual professional investor. And that's because one bad decision, I think about a month ago, I made an episode on this, the compounding effect of one bad decision and how a big chunk of principal getting lost because you had a huge amount of your investment value lost by selling at the bottom of a market downturn. The compounding effect of all the interest lost on that money still remaining in the account is massive. And so part of hiring a financial advisor is not hiring somebody to beat the market or to do some crazy investments that you can't do. It's to regulate emotion and not make mistakes that you might make as a relatively uninformed commercial investor so that your money doesn't get lost. Okay. So but just to summarize this whole portion of what I'm trying to say up, I really truly believe that if you looked at my study materials and you took the insurance exam for yourself, and it's not very much money and it's not very much time. I'm literally just clicking through, I'm skipping all of the lessons, and I'm just taking practice exams, and I'm passing every single one at about an 80% clip. And guess what? You only need a 60% to pass the insurance license exam. So I really think that if someone went through the process of becoming a licensed insurance agent in the state of California, they would never, ever again sit down and put their investments in the hands of an insurance agent. That's really honestly what I believe, because of how unbelievably easy it is. The fact that these people call themselves a financial advisor, I won't begrudge this point too much here. James will never talk about this himself, but I was there every step of the way. The process for him to start 77 Financial Group and independently create an RIA, that is a hell of a process, guys. If you got your CPA and you passed all 4 of those exams in the 18-month window you have, each book is 10 times as big as the insurance material. You would trust CPAs to do your taxes, and most people do. I don't think if you followed the path of an insurance agent that you would trust them to manage your money. It doesn't mean they're bad at what they do, but we're blurring the lines here, and the discourse I see overall in social media and online advertising, in day-to-day conversations with clients and prospective clients, we view people who are really just insurance agents as legitimate financial advisors that have the same sort of seat at the table of investment management, and that is not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. Talk to an insurance agent for your term life insurance. Don't put your entire life savings in an insurance product so that they can get the best commission they've ever got and go have a vacation with your annuity money that's now growing locked. You can't access it for 10 years, and it's growing by 3.5% a year. It's borderline a scam, but we've talked about annuities enough. I won't get any more into the weeds. The other thing that I want to talk about that's kind of got me fired up is I've been consuming a lot of content, guys. So transparently, I'm constantly trying to think, what are people talking about today? What information, good and bad, are people being fed? What are people searching for in the type of content that they want to watch? And the big overwhelming thing that I've been struck by in my mass consumption of content, long form YouTube videos, short form reels, online advertisements, the whole gambit of it, is so many people talk out of turn, is my opinion. And this is similar to sort of the insurance agent who's giving you their recommendation as if it's the optimal investment strategy and not disclosing to you that there's a very short bag of tricks they have access to as an insurance salesman. It's similar to that. I watch episodes of, Dave Ramsey. Again, most people start in the field of finance because they are doing a good job and they know what they're doing. Dave Ramsey is phenomenal at giving real, hard but true advice to people stuck in a cycle of debt and getting people out of debt. He's the best. There's no one that does what he does. There's no one that does it half as well. There's no one that does it on the scale he does. But he says a lot of things that are not his particular expertise. If you go and listen to his episodes right now, there's episodes where he tells people he doesn't think their engagement is going to work because of the financial troubles that they've communicated in a 5-minute phone call. I can guarantee you he's not a registered therapist. I don't think he's able to say that. I can give you episodes where he tells people, and this is his conclusion in his course, Financial Peace University, that all anybody should really do, unless they're a sophisticated investor, is invest in mutual funds. As a financial advisor, and I talked to him at length about this, so I can also speak for James here, who is our primary wealth manager and portfolio designer here at our firm. That is not great financial advice for everybody. It works for some people, but I can tell you, and specifically when you look at client accounts, okay, so I'm a CPA. I work with hundreds of people every single year. Not hundreds. I'm in between 100 and 200 a year that I currently work with. I see all their 1099s. I see everything they're in. So a lot of times what I do for clients is and a lot of them are self-managed too. This isn't just trying to convince people to, drop their financial advisor or something like that. They're people managing their own money. And usually if there's a 1099 that I see a lot of activity in, I'll look at those mutual funds that they're invested in. And then I'll say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but the expense ratio on that mutual fund is actually really high. You might want to consider ETFs like this that accomplish something very similar, but have way lower expense ratios. Let me know if you'd like to talk about it. And so I'm constantly researching things like mutual funds inside client accounts to try to optimize, what are better investment choices that they can make in the future. Most of these mutual funds that people are invested in are very expensive. Expense ratios from 0.6% to over 1%. So just to be in a mutual fund, some of these people are paying more in fees than they would pay a professional investment advisor to actively manage their portfolio to their exact preferences, to have quarterly meetings about their investments, to have someone develop a financial plan for them. All things that an advisor would offer all within that fee, they're paying more than that in an expense ratio just to be in a mutual fund. That could be a mutual fund that they stay in for 30 years and they never trade out of. You could very easily put that in an S&P tracking ETF that has a 0.04% expense ratio. You can look at historical performance for yourself, get an almost identical rate of return, and save yourself over 1% in fees every single year. So again, that's something where Dave Ramsey is a phenomenal debt coach. He's not an RIA. He's not a wealth manager. I would trust James a lot more than Dave Ramsey of what should you put your money in. But he's developed a following, and now, well, let's start doing all these other things that we can appeal to people. What do they want to learn about? There's another, you've probably seen it on Instagram if you're in social media at all. They're also on Spotify. I'm trying to remember the name now. It's Caleb Hammer, I want to say is the name, and he just kind of roasts people, to be completely honest. It is funny. Great Instagram reels, okay, where he has people on and he'll ask questions, and usually they come on because they're not remotely making good financial decisions. But then he'll give advice on things that are way beyond extrapolating to somebody the details of their financial mistakes, in terms of what they should be invested into, what types of apps they should use. Again, predicting, I don't think you're engaged. What do you mean you have a separate account from your fiance? You sure this engagement's going to work? Things that are not related to their core competencies. And so I see this all over the place. Okay. I see real estate investors and with over 1 million followers on social media. And I see this person all the time and I don't remember their name. So I guess this is where my specific industry call-outs section ends on the rant here. But it's someone who has like 46 rental properties, and they started with rental properties and they've kept growing. And now they've got this big following. They do classes on short-term rentals and accelerated depreciation and cost segregation studies and all of those things. And they're sort of now an expert in short-term rental property investing, okay? And then you watch their Instagram reels and they go, what is an ideal portfolio? Here's what I would do. I would be 40% in real estate, 30% in cryptocurrency. And I'm like, hold on. You're an expert in short-term rental properties, but now you're using your following to push a very, very large, aggressive investment allocation of their money into an incredibly volatile investment of cryptocurrency. I guarantee you this person, because I've looked them up, they have 0 credentials in investment management. They have 0 credentials in cryptocurrency. They started in short-term rentals, self-made, or no degree, but that's fine. I got all respect for work experience and hustle, so no disrespect there. Developed a reputation as a really successful short-term rental property, and now has sort of morphed their account into this amorphous investment advice page, and now their millions of followers are getting advice to buy crypto. There's 0 accountability there for advice that bad. Do you know why? Because these people aren't designated financial advisors. They're not partners in RIAs. They're not registered 65 advisors. They're not CFPs or CPAs or any of these designations that legally have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to make the best choice for the client. Otherwise, they lose their designation. These people have nothing to lose because they don't have designations. They don't have degrees. They don't have fiduciary responsibilities. And so they peddle this horrible, risky, completely uncontrolled financial advice that is way out of their wheelhouse. And people consume it. They've got millions of followers. They've got people showing up to their, quote, master classes. That's a great term now online on social media. Sign up for my master class. Sign up for my master class. That means nothing. What the hell is a master class, guys? There's no accountability or definition of what exactly is the credibility of the people that you're getting information from. Because if they don't have a level of fiduciary responsibility where they can be held accountable for the bad advice they potentially give, it's unacceptable. That's not someone that you should be taking advice from. So Lastly, last thing I want to rant about today, and I understand that today's episode is functionally just me ranting for 24 minutes now. I get that, but I really hope there is value if you're listening to this episode in listening to someone who has a pretty wide range of client experiences that I get to learn from. So I'm a CPA. We're also a wealth management firm. I work hand in hand, 50-50 partners with a professional wealth manager who comes from a job where he was managing $900 million. So I see that side of things as well from someone who's really, really good at it. I see insurance questions and insurance decisions. I work on the financial planning portion of long-term planning with clients. I see their taxes year after year and tax projections and tax decisions. All of these things together, I hope there is something you learn from someone who works in a big range of financial decisions that people make. To hear how things work behind the scenes in terms of what's different about actual professionals in the field versus the bad decisions that we see prospective clients, potential clients, actual clients making on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis that are destroying their financial picture because they're following advice of wannabe professionals with no credibility, no accountability, and no designations, giving advice that they don't care if you follow because all they care about is getting 1 million views so that they can monetize their channel. Don't listen to somebody who doesn't have any stake in the game, okay? Now, last part. Speaking of the people who do work with actual professionals, stop being so scared to hold people accountable, all right? I'm not that scary. I think if you came into my office and you talked to me, you'd realize CPAs aren't that scary. If your CPA hasn't responded to your email in 3 weeks, it's time for a new CPA. Unless they're on vacation and you get an automated email, you should not be waiting a month to hear from your CPA whether they filed your taxes or not. Why am I talking about this? Because this is the exact conversation and email exchange I've had with someone that I literally met with on Friday. They've spent over 20 emails to their CPA with no response. That is so unacceptable for a professional in this field. So, and it's the same thing with financial advisory. We talk to people, oh yeah, this is a real kind of story, not with a prospective client, but just someone overall talking about them and their financial advisor. Oh yeah, tough year, right? Like, I think we only did like 3%. It's like, well, this was in 2023. What do you mean 2%? The market was like 26%. This was a great year. Oh, I don't know. I'll talk to my guy about it. He had a reason. If the S&P 500 does 26% and your portfolio does 3%, you're working with a horrible financial advisor. We used to have an expression. So I used to do speech and debate very, very competitively. It was, from 8th grade to after college, still coaching. It was the primary thing I spent my time doing. A passion, a hobby. I got scholarships on it. I coached national champions. I was super, super, super passionate about it. So I used to really research a lot on current events and politics and all that type of stuff because I'd have to debate about it. So there was this quote that my debate partner and still very, very close friend of mine used to quote, and we still quote it, and we used to quote it all the time in debate rounds. And basically what it was is world events are so predictable, and in debate you have to make arguments, right? So you have to try to make a claim that, well, if you did this, that would cause this country to react this way. They would have to strategically position themselves in this region, and that would lead to, an escalation of risk of World War III and blah, blah, blah. And really what it came down to is it's almost impossible to predict world events to any degree of certainty. But there was a specific quote where someone did an analysis of like predominant thinking at the time versus what actually happened in the world, and their conclusion was that the odds of predicting what world event is going to happen with any sort of accurate timeline is functionally the same as dart throwing monkeys throwing darts at the map and saying that's what's going to happen. And I thought that quote was hilarious, and we used to quote it all the time to show the ridiculousness of the opposing debate team saying that we pass a economic policy and it's going to lead to a nuclear war. But that's what I think about when I think of you getting 3% in a market that's doing 26%. A literal dart throwing monkey could throw darts at a board of all of the companies in the S&P 500, and a portfolio of the darts on the wall would almost certainly do better than 23% worse than the market. It's statistically almost impossible for a monkey throwing darts at the wall to pick worse companies than your professional investment manager did. Let that sink in, and then ask yourself, if you're listening to this and this resonates with you, why are you not firing that financial advisor? Now, there are people who are in this boat for legitimately good reasons. If you're 70 years old and you need income in retirement and all of your money is potentially necessity money, you're probably in either treasuries or bonds or a functionally no-risk portfolio where you're not going to lose money and you aren't really going to get any gains. I get that. I'm talking about people who are working with a financial advisor and they're expecting returns in their account. Something went wrong in the way your portfolio was built to balance return and risk tolerance. If a market that did 26%, in the midst of that, your portfolio is doing 3%. It's horrible. It's terrible. We recently talked to a client who is paying 1.5% in an AUM fee to their financial advisor. That's very, very high. If you guys don't know the world of AUM advising, there's nobody that we charge 1.5%. That would be above our very, very highest scale for someone who wants risky, active portfolio management and has almost no money. We still probably wouldn't charge 1.5%. And their return did 8% last year. The S&P 500 did 24%. And that investment advisor there's options trading in that account. There's futures contracts, very, very complex portfolio design. And it's not working. You're getting a third of the return in a good market. Now, this is not financial advice for anybody. It's not a promise that we can do this for you. My Roth IRA, following James' recommendations last year, did 100%. I'm not joking, literally 100%. Am I ever going to do that again? Probably not. I sure hope so, because if James can be that right that often, not only is my money, but our clients' money is really going to be growing. That would be awesome. We don't do investment strategies that risky for 99% of our clientele. But I was like, let's grow this. It's a tiny Roth IRA. I've put a couple grand in this. What are your picks? What are your tech picks? Almost every call was correct. My account went up by 100%. Now, it could go down when the market went down, 15%, my account was down 25%, right? That's a normal, incredibly leveraged, risky, high beta portfolio. When the market does well, you're going to unbelievably crush it. When the market goes down, you're going to lose even more than the market, right? That's a portfolio that you can justify. If you're still losing money when the market goes down, and then when the market goes up 24%, you're only getting 8%, you're just working with someone who's bad at their job. Or maybe they're just not right for you, because it doesn't seem like that's matching your objectives of trying to grow your money as solidly as possible. People are so nervous to officially say, hey, I'm moving my money over to someone else. Hey, I don't want to pay you to do my taxes anymore. Thanks for your help so far. I went in another direction. I won't be engaging you again to prepare my 2025 taxes. You can do that. You're paying them to do something. You don't want to pay them to do it anymore. There's no contract for you. You can leave. So this is the third thing that I'm upset about, is it doesn't seem like people care how willy-nilly is generous. It's a scale of willy-nilly all the way to fraudulent and bad and negligent at their job. People are willing to accept any range of that spectrum with their money. I've amended tax returns for people in prior years here in 2024 where they overpaid taxes between $2,000 and $5,000. Think about how much you would want to have $5,000 right now. That's how much a bad CPA can cost you. Think about your investments. Think about how much a 24% return last year would have grown your investments, but you only got 8%. Think about how much money you left on the table. Why are you so okay with people who don't have designations, don't have accountability, giving you financial advice? And why are you okay paying professionals who are accountable to do a bad job and you're not more mad about it? If you understand compound interest, you understand how big these things can be early on. If your CPA is screwing you over thousands of dollars every year because they don't know the deductions that you qualify for, or they don't know the elections that you're able to make to avoid penalties or whatever it is, or your financial advisor is not doing a good job managing your investments, or they're not explaining to you that the mutual funds you're in have a 1.1% expense ratio, and so your actual interest rate is over 1% less than you think it is. If you don't catch those things early and you understand how compound interest works, you're costing yourselves tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars by just being okay with mediocrity and bad performance and negligence with your own money that you're spending your life working for. And if it's not your money, it's money you got from your parents who worked hard for it, or your grandparents who worked hard for it. So somewhere down the road, someone worked their butts off in your family for this money, and you're letting professionals in a suit cash commission checks off of taking advantage of you because they passed the insurance exam, which is the easiest freaking exam in the entire world. Go take it. You'll see what I'm talking about. You probably don't even have to study. That's how easy it is. All right. Thanks for joining me on this very, very peaceful, calm, just a poetry of an episode, really. Spoken word to the highest degree. So gentle, so beautiful, you know. But hey, look, my motivation is to get you as mad as I am. If I get mad because I see people who, it doesn't really affect me, but I see them wasting money on their tax return every year, that makes me mad. It should make them mad, and it should make you mad. Do better with your money because you deserve better with your money. You worked hard for it, and compound interest is unforgiving. It's awesome the longer you have working for you, but the more time you waste, you can't get that time back when you're 40 and 50 and 60, and you're going to really wish that family friend you got referred to manage your money, you wish you would have actually vetted other financial advisors and chose the best one, not just the one that you sort of kind of trusted because of some weird reason, and now it's costing you thousands of dollars every single year. As always, feel free to share this episode with friends. I hope you learned something from the ramblings of an insider. All right, this is what I get frustrated with. These are some of the things that I see the most in terms of people consuming and following bad advice. So I hope you can take my anger and utilize it to make better decisions in the future. Share it to someone you know that has an advisor that doesn't do a good job. When someone says they don't have a CPA that responds to their emails within weeks, send them this episode. Say, hey, there's other people that are mad about this. Maybe you should talk to a new CPA. Maybe that person, you were talking about your money the other day. Here's an episode that might help explain to you why that person isn't a good advisor for you, and stop consuming bad financial advice online. If they don't have designations and they're not accountable for advice they give, then it's probably bad advice because there's no one to hold them accountable for the bad advice that they do give, which means it's gonna keep continuing. So consume better financial advice for your financial future and pick better professionals to manage your money. And most importantly, as always, invest early, invest often. See you next time.